Win a Pageant, episode number 6.
Every individual pageant contestant has a unique set of strengths that set her apart from the competition. All you need is a clear path to help you discover your strengths to win on stage and in life. Let's win a pageant.
Hi, winners, and welcome back to another episode of Win a Pageant. I'm your coach, Alicia Darby, and today I'm going to teach you how to come up with a bunch of awesome answers for your pageant interview, because I believe that in a pageant interview, you do not need to know the questions as long as you know the answers. And the way to craft an awesome answer is through the art of storytelling. So that is what we're discussing today. Now, you did learn about storytelling when you were in kindergarten. If you remember back in the day, you talked about a beginning, a middle, and an end. You know, you hear kids all the time tell stories all over the place. They're like, "Mommy, I got a lollipop." And you're like, "Oh, how'd you get the lollipop?" "Sally, it's from Sally." "Oh, yeah? What'd Sally do?" "Well, Sally, la la." And then it's like the story's totally backwards, okay? In kindergarten, they teach you there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. But they sort of leave out all these extra things I'm going to teach you today that are a little bit more high-level thinking. So, the basis of our conversation today, I want you to understand that the best communication happens when other people know you, like you, and trust you. Your job as a communicator is to communicate to other people in a way that they feel like they know you, they like you, and they trust you. And stories are the basis of human connection. We share stories at cocktail parties and networking events and fundraisers and charity walks. You share stories in dorm rooms and frat parties and internship interviews and family get-togethers and bridal showers and all these places, and, of course, pageants. So we're able to connect with people through sharing stories, and you understand where someone else is coming from based on what they've experienced. So knowing how to tell a good story is absolutely key to getting people to know, like, and trust you. So if you can tell a good story, then you can help other people understand you. They'll feel like they really know you. Plus, if you are really authentic and you tell your story in a very real, down-to-earth way, and of course, you must be fully honest during your story, because that will then be totally aware of it aligning with your actions. So it's going to be congruent. That will help people to know, like, and trust you, which is going to lead to huge success in your communication. Okay, so let's talk about what the elements of a good story really is. One of the most important elements is that it must be memorable. And when something is memorable, the person telling the story also becomes memorable, and the story is repeatable. So if I know what the person's story is, I'm able to tell it to somebody else. So it's repeatable. I'm able to memorize it, really. Good stories are inspiring. Sometimes they inspire action, and sometimes they inspire deep thinking. Sometimes they inspire a change of thought or a transformation in somebody. So they're definitely inspiring. And good stories are entertaining. Now, entertaining does not mean that they have to be funny, and it doesn't mean that they have to be silly or, verbose or anything. It's truly just entertainment. Think about like different movies that people watch, the movie genres. It could be anything from drama, comedy. There's a variety of different genres of movies. And if you think about your stories like that, that's sort of what we're telling. Movies are just telling stories. Okay. More elements. Good stories include 4 big things. Number 1, characters. So there's people involved. Number 2 is a setting. Where does this take place at? Number 3 is a challenge. So some obstacle they're up against. And then the 4th thing is a big win. Now, usually in that challenge to win, that's usually where the inspiration is found. And then, of course, you're going to dabble in elements of entertaining pieces and things like that. But the memorable piece comes in how you tell the story. It has to be, remember, memorable and repeatable. So too many details can get totally confusing, and too little details is just absolutely boring. So the details that you share in your story should enhance the ultimate point of the story and not distract from the main idea. Good stories leave the listener with a knowledge nugget. I like that word knowledge nugget because it's something that can be very small and yet is kind of that piece that inspires action. So let's talk about the step-by-step process of how you can create stories based on real life experiences that you've had that can inspire other people to know, like, and trust you. Now, remember that the idea of all of this is to create stories that are the answers to interview questions. So I'll tell you how, after you create a story, how it can be applied to a variety of different questions. So step number 1, consider a moment that has changed you. So look for big shifts in your thinking or in your action. This is like the aha moments of your life, or big wins that you've had, or just cool experiences that really changed you and something that you remember. Step 2 is to consider, why do you want to tell this story? So it's best to make this about your listener, not about you. So it's usually a way that you want to encourage them, you want to give them a takeaway or teach them something new, leave them with something interesting. In your pageant interview, it simply may be to help them understand a facet of your personality or a value that you have. Those are some good ways of discovering why you want to tell the story. Step 3. Consider the chronological ingredients of your story. Okay, so think about the beginning, the middle, and the end. What happened first? What happened in the middle? What happened in the end? Consider who your characters are, where this takes place, what is the challenge that you faced, and what's your big win. If you are creating stories right now for your interview, I would actually write this stuff down. Like, I would write it all out so that you know what the ingredients are. Then cut out the fat. Cut out all the boring stuff that doesn't matter to your story anyway. So if you find yourself struggling, like, well, and la la la, and you're like telling all these extra details, just cut that stuff out, because that's not going to add to your story. It's only going to distract from the main point. But do add, and this is step number 5, add some spice for flavor. I find that the best spice is the emotional details. So the personal attributes, the values, the characteristics, the sort of background story that you were telling yourself in that very moment, that's the good juicy stuff. So you really want to make this story juicy. And if you add that spice for flavor, those emotional elements, people are really easily able to latch on to that, and they feel like they trust you because they might be thinking, that's exactly what I would have done in that situation, or I think that too, you know. Step number 6 is to let it marinate only for just enough time. Your story should reflect the time in which it takes you to tell the story, should reflect the aha moment. So if it's something that's totally transformational and really life-shifting, the story might be a little bit longer. But if it's something quick and easy, it might be just a quick and easy story. So allow it to marinate only for enough time that you need. And then step 7 is to practice your recipe to see if your listener really does understand the knowledge nugget. So you're going to practice these different elements, saying your story, testing them out on different people so that you can really see, did I get across my point in the right amount of way? And as you practice your story, you'll learn maybe you can cut out some more, or maybe you need to add some different spice for flavor. New things will come up for you. Now, your bonus little tip here in applying this to pageantry is to, once you've created this story, share this story in your fact sheet or your resume or your essay in a very interesting way. So I'm going to share with you how you can go about doing this by using one of my clients' stories, really cute story from this teen that I worked with, one of my favorite clients. So her story, when we were creating stories, we were talking about one of the favorite things that she did. And she goes, oh, well, I caught a fish with my dad. Okay, cool. So you caught a fish with your dad. So dad's involved. That's one of the characters, and she's another character. So I said, well, where did you catch your fish? Oh, well, we were at this event for Cabela's. Well, Cabela's, if you don't know what Cabela's is, it's like a huge outdoor sporting store, brand, really. And so apparently they had an outdoor event for children, and she and her dad went. And so I said, well, where did you catch this fish at? Well, we caught it in a pond. It was a game. Oh, it was a game? Well, tell me about the game. Well, there were 15 of us that were playing this game. It was a contest, and she was the only girl. And so she and her dad were like kind of on this team together, and she was the one that was going to be catching this fish. And I believe that they were fly fishing. So she's fly fishing, which, goodness gracious, that's an incredible skill to have. So we crafted her story by finding all of these different elements. We crafted her story, and it essentially goes like this. And I'm going to tell you from her perspective. My dad and I went to a Cabela's outdoor event for kids, and we entered a contest where there were about 14 other players, all of who were boys. I was the only girl involved. And so we were fly fishing. This is one of the first times I was ever fly fishing, although my dad loves to fish, so we've done a lot of outdoor things before. So I felt pretty confident in it. Dad was coaching me along the entire time, and I ended up being the very first person to catch a fish. And so I won. And my dad and I just celebrated all day long. It was really a fun day. Okay, so if that's the story, told beginning, middle, and end, and of course I told it from her perspective, you might think about now, how can we cut out the fat? What are the things that are not so important? And how can we add some spice for flavor? What are some more emotional details? How did it feel when you won? What were you feeling looking around and be like, I'm the only girl here? What did that feel like for you, you know? So then we thought, okay, how do we put this in an interesting way on her fact sheet? And the thing that we came up with was, I once won a flying contest. Well, goodness, if you put something like that, I once won a flying contest on your fact sheet, you're sure to get a question that's something like, tell me about your flying contest, or what's something that you've won in your life. Now, this story, she is able to apply to so many different questions, like, tell me about your favorite childhood memory. Tell me a little bit about your family. What does it feel like to be supported, and how would you show support for others? Tell me about an interesting moment that you overcame. What's something that you tried first time ever? What do you think about girl power, and are women able to do exactly the same thing that men are able to do? What's a fun hobby that you enjoy doing with your family? Right? Okay, so this answer is something that she can apply to so many different areas of her interview. I'm going to go ahead and post this full outline of this process for you in our show notes of this episode at winapageant.com, because I know I just dumped a ton of information into you in the last 10 minutes, and I really want you to capture this because, again, I say it is not about knowing the questions. It is about knowing the answers. And if you can have a ton of stories like this floating around in your arsenal and then cram for them right before your pageant interview, you will be ready to wow these people. They will feel like they know you, they like you, and they trust you. And that, ladies, is how you win a pageant. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.
To learn more and to get valuable resources to help you win, visit winapageant.com.
Hey there, I'm Alicia Darby, and I just want to say thank you so much for watching that last video. If you totally loved it and got something from it, would you just click subscribe right here to subscribe to our YouTube channel? Hey, I am here for you, and I've got so many more trainings and videos for you. In fact, this one would be a really great one to watch next. Or if that topic doesn't interest you, then try this one. It's my most recent video training. So I think both of these would be really great for you. Thank you again so much for subscribing. I am honored to be your coach. I'll see you again soon.